Sir, you are audible.
That's very good.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Nice. So we are going to talk about research and development. May I know what disciplines mostly people are from, so that I could formulate my interaction catering to the needs of various disciplines. Are you from social, do you have people from social sciences, humanities? Do we have someone?
Sir, I am from economics.
Okay, very good. And some from other humanities like literature, literary studies. Do we have someone from literary studies, language? Okay. And how many people?
So I'm from chemistry.
I'm also from chemistry.
Okay. Sanjay, what is the discipline you are from?
Computer science.
So I find.
Sir, pharmaceutical
This is very good.
sciences.
Sciences, very good.
Thank you, sir.
English, he has raised a hand. May speak. Sachi.
Yes, sir, I'm
Shachi.
raising
You
hand
are
yeah.
from chemistry. So we have. Do we have somebody from physics also? In outside Indian Institute of Technology, Shweta. How many people are expected to be in total? So that I wait for some people to join. 15. 15. 50. 50. Yes. It's a very small attendance, 17. 17 including you and me. Only 15 have joined. Anyway, so in the meantime, people will be joining. Most of the people, is there anybody who is still pursuing PhD? Who has not yet completed? Also tell PhDs. Is there anybody who is still yet? We are engaged in as a teacher. We are obviously responsible for disseminating knowledge. By disseminating knowledge, what we mean that we have to deliver knowledge to recipients. Like in the classroom, when I'm delivering a lecture, I'm making available knowledge to students. So disseminating the knowledge, or delivering lectures at various places. Like now, I'm talking to colleagues drawn from various disciplines, from various places. So whatever I have understanding about research and development, I will convey it to you, right? So that is one way of looking at this. And the second is processing the knowledge. By processing the knowledge, what we mean that we read from, say, various sources, then we develop some material for ourselves to be able to deliver later, to develop my own understanding regarding some subject. That is known as processing of knowledge. The knowledge processed show if it has certain novelty that should be made available to others, then it can be created in form of some artifact like a book or a video lecture, and it can be communicated to people, right? So knowledge can be delivered in the classroom, it can be processed, and it can be created in a form. So delivery of knowledge in form of lectures, etc., and processing of knowledge and communication of knowledge through creation of artifacts, of knowledge artifacts like books, videos, whatever we understand. So these are three activities that we are involved in as teachers in higher education. Now, the processing of knowledge and creation of new knowledge is where we are engaged in research and development. So development is related to some activity whereby we may create something which may not necessarily require some research. For example, yes, Pratibha is there with her son around, it seems. Small. So you can mute yourself, Pratibha. Yeah, Pratibha Agarwal. Yes, it's okay now. So, do you want to say something, Pratibha? You have raised hand. If you want to say something, you could say, otherwise we proceed further. So, as I said, you develop something like if you have learned how to make soap and you in some way that is different from other soaps that are available in the market, you have developed something which is more useful. That is what is the idea of development in general. Applying the research that is available or applying the research that you have done. And many a times, during the development, you may end up doing some research also. There is another related word that is known as innovation. So we need to understand the difference between research and innovation. Innovation sounds to be something similar to research, but it is factually not research. So, would somebody give some idea regarding what you understand, what is innovation? Partha Haldar? Yes, Sanjay Kwan. Innovation. What do you understand?
Creation of some new ideas. Okay. We can say it is an innovative idea. Maybe any kinds of sculptural or
some new idea. Some new idea can lead to research output also. But I think when you say innovation,
research output may not. Research output may not. It is a completely new idea.
Completely new idea. Then is it
invention? Invention.
How invention is different from innovation?
Invention is completely primary job actually. Innovation we can existing idea maybe.
Let us try to understand the differences between these, so that we can proceed further with the differences that they are there. Let me tell you that when the washing machines were created first, obviously everybody knew that you can wash clothes. So in washing clothes, what you require that you have a cloth and you have got some detergent. So you would like the cloth to be in contact with the water, with the detergent available in the water, so that and it should be rubbed or stirred in such a fashion so that the dirt comes out. Okay, that is the principle that is required, that you stir the cloths in the water with detergent. That is how the washing machines work. A restaurant owner in Punjab got an idea that when you make lassi, there also you need to stir. You have curd and you have water and you put some sugar and you have to do it. So what he did, he purchased a brand new washing machine and started churning out glasses of lassi. So earlier he was able to make 5 to 7 glasses of lassi in one go. Now he could produce 200, 300 glasses of lassi. So innovatively, he made use of a washing machine to do something that it was not meant for. So we can state in the following manner: if there is some problem P in area A, and there is a solution also available for the problem P in area A, there is another area B where there is a problem Q, and Q seemingly doesn't appear to be the same as problem P in area A, seemingly, right? But if you can find out the real requirement of solution process of problem Q in area B, and you can make use of the technique used in solving problem P in area A to successfully solve the problem Q in area B, then you have done innovation. Means nobody knew that this technique. So you see, it is not a research in the sense that technique was already known for solving problem P in area A. So technique for solving the problem of automation of washing clothes was already available. But it required an inquisitive mind to understand that the same requirement exists in churning out glasses of lassi also. Right? So churning out glasses of lassi is another problem Q in area B, which is not related to washing clothes at all. Does it sound convincing? This idea of innovation. Sanjay Paul, you are told that you are...
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm trying to first differentiate between this. Let us similarly look at the problem of invention also. We all have heard that an apple fell on the ground for the scientist to understand that there is a force that attracts things towards itself. Right? So there are certain types of things that you may not reach through formal education or research necessarily, but you end up working out some understanding, some knowledge, or an idea that can lead to knowledge. One would argue that it may be possible through normal process of investigative study also. Like inventions are, there are stories about invention, that somebody was sitting and thought that this could happen and finally then pursued the proper formal investigative study and ended up with. So what is said in terms of inventions, that normally when you study something, then your understanding gets straight-jacketed and you keep on moving in the same direction. Inventions occur when you explore other possibilities, alternatives that you may not be aware about. that others may not have been able to look at. Right? So that is how inventions have taken place. So you see, we are trying to locate where is the research apart from these. So these are various technical words that are normally used. Innovation, as I said. So innovation is possible when you can innovatively think about solving some problem, not in the traditional way as it has been solved as of now. Right? So stirring something in a pot was known, but going for its automation so that you can wash clothes, it was innovatively done. And similarly, so it is not an invention because the method of stirring things was already known. Applying it for solving the problem of washing clothes and then understanding the same technique. So factually the problem P and Q both, they internally had the same problem that needs a solution. Right? So an innovative mind could identify that problem P and problem Q, intrinsically they have one and the same requirement, and that is why the technique used for washing clothes could be used for that. That is the idea of innovation. Let us try to look at the word research. The word itself is very interesting. You are searching for something that others have already attempted to search. That is why we are saying research. So suppose Shachi Mishra tried to do something in her lab. She got something. And then somebody attempted to know a little more about that object or process that she was working with and ends up identifying certain newer characteristics or comes out with some newer observations that adds value to the knowledge already created by Shachi Mishra. So you see, she also searched for newer understandings, observations, characteristics. Like you will find there are material scientists, they keep working for characterization of materials. Right? So some people investigated and found certain characteristics, and some new person may study the same thing and add a few more characteristics or in a more refined way present the knowledge of the characteristics that were already investigated earlier. That is why the word research. Right? And normally that is what happens when you write a research paper. You write that this is the topic on which others have also contributed a lot, and they try to find out something. And I have also located something that you add to the body of existing knowledge. The whole picture becomes more understandable, more beautiful. So that is why we are very humble in research. We don't say that we have done everything. We only say that we have added something to the existing body of knowledge, something interesting, that makes the whole picture more beautiful, more understandable. Now let us try to look at why research is done. So you see, human race has been interested in knowing more and more about the objects, happenings, processes. Like we are always interested in knowing more and more about what is the reason, what are the factors that are responsible for rains to occur. When does the rain occur? One is interested in knowing. One is interested in knowing why people fall sick. why somebody's health deteriorates. So it is an activity or process happening. And similarly, people are interested in knowing more and more about different objects also. Like somebody may be interested in knowing more and more about, say, living object, a non-living object. Like people are interested in knowing about plastics. You see, the whole world is now talking about that plastics are very bad, don't make use of plastic, because it does not get converted into something that we know as in the other form of the matter, so that the earth can consume it. Every other thing gets converted into, like human body gets converted, मिट्टी हो जाता है शरीर, आप कोई पौधा ले लीजिए तो वो convert हो जाएगा. So normally everything that is a material that keeps changing the form, and you can have a method of conversion. But there is something plastic. So it is a concern of the society, that society is interested in knowing that why plastic does not degrade. There are things that are degradable and that are not degradable. So plastic is something that doesn't degrade, right? So if the plastic doesn't degrade, then it becomes something that will become too much of trash everywhere, as you find. And there are other problems also that are because of the plastic. If you use it for a longer time, if you keep hot things, there are other problems also. So you are interested in knowing more and more about an object. That object can be at nano level, that object can be at micro level, or it can be at higher scales that you may be interested in knowing more and more about objects. Similarly, people are interested in knowing more and more about happenings or processes. So there are only two things that are studied. Either some objects are studied or processes are studied. What is a process? A process is a set of activities with some ordering relationship. There are multiple activities. Activities come from actions. Like if there are two bodies and if they collide, then you would be interested in studying their, when one body is moving, the other body is also moving. If they are moving in directions opposite to them, each of them, then they would collide. So you would be interested in knowing what would be the impact, what would happen, what would be the final direction of movement of both the bodies that are going to collide. After collision, what will be the direction of movement of these two bodies? So there are actions. The one body is made moving, the other is made moving, and then they collide. So that is what is the idea of a process. A process is a set of activities with some ordering relationship. So either we are interested in knowing more and more about objects, or we are interested in knowing more and more about processes. So there are only two things. I mean, the same is true with mechanics, and the same is true with other disciplines also. Like if somebody is writing a literary piece of text, if somebody is writing a literary piece of text, then there can be certain interesting things that may happen. Like if you consider, like if you talk about Acharya Ramchandra Shukla wrote certain, let us say, piece of text in some year 1960. Then Hajari Prasad Dwivedi also wrote, let us say, some piece of text in some certain year. And you are interested in knowing who had a bigger vocabulary, more number of words. Vocabulary means more number of distinct words that were used in both the texts. So you devise a method of counting the number of distinct words. Otherwise, you have to say that I have read a good deal of writings by Acharya Hajari Prasad Dwivedi and Acharya Ramchandra Shukla. similarly, English people may take Shakespeare and Milton. So I can tell how many words were used by both of them. And if number of distinct words of one is bigger than the other one, then you say that the vocabulary of the first one is bigger than the vocabulary of the second one. So this is one attribute of the object, a piece of text that you can concretely see. So only if you say that the vocabulary of Acharya Ramchandra Shukla was bigger than that of Acharya Hari Prasad Dwivedi, or that of Shakespeare was bigger than Milton, then somebody, suppose you are a person who is supervising PhD, then your student would say, how do you know, sir, that his vocabulary was bigger? Then you would say, just I have read both of them and it is my understanding that vocabulary of Shakespeare is bigger than that of vocabulary of, say, Milton. But precision is not there. Right? So you want to know more and more, and you want to create knowledge that is not ambiguous. You want to remove the ambiguity. What is ambiguity? You see, when you are creating some knowledge, the next purpose of creation of knowledge is to communicate the knowledge also. When you, what is communicating the knowledge? Communication. So if there is some thought process in my mind, and I want to communicate it to someone else, then the purpose is that upon hearing or reading what I have communicated, the other side should have the same thought process generated in the mind that I have, the thought process that I have in my mind. Right? Is it okay? If it is not happening, means if the same thought process is not getting generated in the mind of the other person, then the communication has failed. Do you get this point? If it is not happening, then the communication has failed. So every attempt has to be made to communicate properly. So there are two things that are important, that I should be able to create knowledge and I should be able to communicate knowledge precisely. These are two important things that need to happen. So we have to create knowledge about objects and we have to create knowledge about processes. You see, communication of knowledge is also a very tricky issue. It is not very easy. What has been known that whenever a thought process is generated in my mind and I communicate it, express it, either by writing or by speaking, then I am unable to convey the whole of my thought process. Some part of the knowledge would remain in it will not get conveyed. So it has been observed that the best orator or the best writer can factually communicate not more than 60 to 65% of his or her understanding. What it means that 35% or 30% or 40% would be left in my mind itself. And that is why you may have seen when people speak, they keep saying, are you able to understand me? Are you able to get me, what I am saying? What factually you want to say, that are you able to understand something that I could not express? Do you get this point? So communication of knowledge is not an easy job. Your purpose is to get same thought process generated in the mind of the listener or reader also. If the same process is the same thought process does not get generated, then the same understanding would not be created on the other side. Right? That is why it happens that in families you may have seen that with all the pure heart and good intention, you spoke something and you thought that everybody would be happy what you have spoken about. And as a result, you find that everybody got infuriated. Sab log naraj ho gaye. You wanted that everybody should be happy, But on the other hand, everybody has got infuriated. Everybody is unhappy. So that is miscommunication. You had a noble thought. You had a sincere thought in mind with pure heart so that it is pleasant, but it has turned out to be something else. Everybody has this experience in his or her life. So what has happened? The thought process that got generated in your mind got communicated in such a way, because 100% could not get communicated, emotions could not get communicated, the words may not have been chosen carefully to convey the meaning, right? So that, as I said, 60% of the thought process is only conveyed, and that too, try to understand, 60% thought process gets conveyed only by the best writer or best orator. People like me and you hardly are able to express 40%, 50%. 60% to 70% is the power of expression with the best orators and best writers. Then there is a difficulty. But there is one interesting thing, very good thing, that when you speak something to someone and you say, are you able to understand me? Are you able to get me? Then you may have seen other side says immediately, don't worry, I am able to understand what you are saying. So factually what the person is responding to is that don't worry, you have not been able to say something, but I have understood. So it is great capability of the human mind of the other side. You see, there is a limitation of anybody who makes an expression that cannot express fully the thought process, but at the same time, the other side has got the capability of inferring from what has been spoken. That is why you see, normally you say, give me in black and white. When you say black and white, what it means, write in black, I will be able to infer your whites also, that what has not been able to be given. When you say, give me in black and white. So because you want precision, at least black should be obtained fully, whatever you are able to express. So that is the difficulty with the expression of knowledge. So we have looked at, there is a need of creation of knowledge, and there is a need of communication of knowledge. Knowledge regarding what? Knowledge has to be created regarding objects. Objects can be of many types, living objects, non-living objects, certain type of intellectual material like some text, some textbook, some video, whatever you create is an object. So everything is understood in terms of its attributes. For example, those who are from literature, I will give for them example. That if there is some text, you would say that the text is created keeping in mind the psyche of a person who is writing. Like literature people from English language or from Hindi, if there are people, they may have come across some statement that style is the man, style is the author herself who has written. Factually, that same person is appearing in the text that has been written. So you see, although it is an object, but expression has got many things. I mean, somebody who is emotionally weak will have one types of literary writings. Somebody who is emotionally strong will have one type of, another type of literary writings. Somebody who is socialist would be writing one type of, would be creating one type of the texts or poems, whatever you talk about. So somehow, persona and psyche of the person is also embedded in the text that is created. So there is a process of writing, creating, and there is an object that's created. One may be interested in both. Like I said, the object, a piece of text, one may be interested in understanding how many different words have been used. Similarly, then you can make another table where you can find out how many words expressing emotions of romance, affection, love, or other emotions like being unhappy, happy, etc. have been expressed. So person who has all difficulties in his or her life would be expressing a text, making use of words that are more related to his or her psyche or persona. Do you get the point? So you see, there is a process of writing and there is an object piece of text that is created or poem that is created. So one may be interested in knowing more and more about it. So one thing is that you make a qualitative assertion about it. That you can say that here is the author, here is an author who writes romantic poetries. You see, it is your understanding. But when there are two authors, both are writing romantic poetry, if you want to give which one is more heavily lopsided towards romantic characteristics and which one is lesser, then you require some investigative analysis to find the number of different words expressing emotions and different ways of remembering. Then the purpose of it, the romantic words for deceiving somebody or maybe working out a good relationship. So there are many types of analysis that can be done. And you can notice here that you can collaborate with a person who is person from psychology. You see, you are from literary studies and you catch hold of somebody from psychology and you start analyzing the words that have been used. So this is very interesting, you see. In investigative studies, we are interested in knowing more and more about the characteristics of either an object or a process. So that is very clear. Now, where from these interesting questions come, like whether the poetry is romantic or what type of it is, the text, where from it comes? So factually, all the investigative studies that are done in the whole world, in the society, they are factually concerns of humans. We have got concerns. And as enlightened human minds are, that more noble concerns should be there. Like if you are enlightened, then the concern should be, how can I get food that is tasty for me? How can I get comfort for me? But if there is an enlightened society, then would be interested in knowing what are the characteristics of food items that are good for my health. Or when I consume some food item, how is it going to affect the biochemical processes in my body? A still more enlightened society would say that how do I gather and collect food so that everybody gets nourishment? A still more enlightened society and people would have concern that I don't have to worry about only my health. I have to worry about the health and well-being of all the living beings like cow, lion, everybody. You see, there are countries that are going to protect wildlife. So these are known as concerns of individuals, and you can call concerns of society, concerns of professionals, concerns of certain bodies like government, concerns of, say, organizations, concerns of any group of people or individuals. And these questions, interesting questions that make us, that motivate us for knowing more and more about some object or processes, are factually concerns of the stakeholders of the society. And that is why humans are supposed to be enlightened minds. So we should not be creating artifacts Rather, we should be interested in knowing more and more about the world around us, so that we are able to know more and more with the purpose of maintaining the harmony in the nature, in the universe, and creating knowledge for that purpose regarding the objects and processes. If the concerns are ill-conditioned, if the concerns are bad, then you end up creating processes because of which you have more pollution, you have all the plastic things, etc. available, and you destroy lives of people, you destroy the nature, you destroy. So it is all related to concerns. What type of concern you will have, that type of knowledge of objects and processes you will have, and related things you would keep creating. You will creating objects and processes. So you can create newer objects and processes, and you can know more and more about the objects and processes that are available. That is what for research is required, knowing more and more, something that has not been known, that one is interested in knowing. So there are two things we talked about. When we are conveying knowledge, there is a difficulty in conveying the knowledge also. Now, let us look at the following statement. Suppose somebody makes a statement that this load is very heavy. Suppose somebody makes a statement that this load is very heavy. Then a school going boy or girl would understand that this load is heavier than the school bag that I carry every day. Right? A person working in a market mandi would understand that possibly this load is heavier than this sack that I load onto my back. जो गेहूं का बोरा मैं पीछे पीठ पे डालता हूं, शायद उससे ज्यादा भारी है. So what was the statement? This load is heavy, but everybody is creating different understanding of heaviness of the load. But as and when you say that this load weighs 50 kilograms, everybody has the same understanding, because there is a quantification, there is a standardization, what is 1 kilogram, right? So what you have done by going for quantification, you have gone for disambiguation of the knowledge conveyed by the statement, this load is heavy. So that is the important point. You see, what I had said, when you are conveying knowledge, the problem is similar, if not identical, thought process must get generated in the mind of the listener or reader also. So it is our responsibility to not only create knowledge, but communicate in such a manner so that there is disambiguation. Factually, it is a major problem in studies everywhere. Like somebody, suppose there is a piece of art, you call an artist and you give a sketch pen and give a whiteboard and you ask the artist to make some sketch. So what the artist to do? Artist to take the brush, the color, and draw something, paint something on the whiteboard. Now if you ask the artist to tell how did she do it, then what will be the possible answer of the artist? I cannot explain how I did it. But if you want, I can redo it. So you see, interesting point. Here, expressing the knowledge is 0%. Although the artist does have the knowledge, how he or she did it. But you see how difficult it is to communicate. What the artist would say, that if you want, I can redo it. But it is difficult for me to narrate how did I do it. I think I am continuously audible. If there is any difficulty, please indicate. And if you have any question, you can stop me in between also. Because I am giving you my understanding rather than what is written in the book. That's very good. Thank you, Sachin. That I am audible. So you see, these two ways of expressing knowledge, that is when you speak without quantification, without anything, that is known as qualitative expression. Gunatmak abhivyakti. Qualitative expression of whatever you are speaking. Like you may have seen in the family, there may be some old people, चाहे जितना बढ़िया खाना बना दीजिए, they would never say it is very good. They would normally never say it is good or bad. So if they simply say good, you may consider it today it is very good factually. There are some people who would never say it is bad, normally say very good, excellent, and somebody doesn't speak, then you can understand that possibly it is not good today, although the person has not spoken. So that is what is qualitative expression. Somebody is good may be very good, and somebody is very good may not factually be very good, it may be only good. That is what is qualitative expression of understandings. Now, if this problem arises, if you have qualitative expression of understanding, then you will not have proper understanding of it. So whenever you are conveying some knowledge about certain thing, then you have to go for disambiguation. What is ambiguity? A statement is considered to be ambiguous if two or more interpretations are possible. If you make a statement, when two or more interpretations are possible, then it is known as ambiguous. Research has the responsibility of creating knowledge that should get created without ambiguities, means the communication should be disambiguated. We have the responsibility of disambiguation of the knowledge. Right? So as if I summarize what I have told you now, that we study either objects or processes. And objects can be different, like in physics, if you would go, the body is moving, the electron, proton, neutron, up to that level you call as bodies, that should be understood. And then there are processes like laws of climatology, how does rain occur? When you take sociology, then when riots occur, why does riot occur? So riot is some activity. Then there are communities of people, and when some community, how do you describe a community? By the size, the psyche, the rebellious psyche of a community, the community with tolerance. There can be many such characteristics that you may be interested in studying. So there is a body, that is group of people. You may like to characterize how good they are, how furious they are, how tolerant they are, and there may be processes like riot taking place. So whatever be the discipline of study, either we are interested in knowing more and more about some object, or we are interested in knowing more and more about certain processes. So factually, this expression in terms of qualitative understanding of certain thing factually remains in the domain of art. As I said, artist would draw something. If you ask the artist to explain, how did you do it? The artist would say, I don't know how to explain it, but if you want, I can redo it. Let us put another question to the artist. There is a child in my family. Can you train the child so that the child becomes as great artist as you are? Similar question could be put up to say a very great personality of music also to train, or dance, drama to train a child. Normally what that great man would say, that let the child come and sit by my side. If the child gets up early in the morning, goes to bed quite in time, doesn't eat too much of bad junk food, etc., the child is likely to get to catch the way I do the artwork or I sing and would be able to learn. You see, again, conveying this knowledge is not very easy. So factually, all the subjects where conveying the knowledge is difficult, that is known as art. That is known as art. All the subjects that are in humanities, where you talk about certain process or certain objects where you define characteristics, if you are unable to convey the understanding and knowledge in unambiguous form so that it could be received in the same way, that is known as the domain of humanities or arts. When we go for disambiguation of knowledge and take refuse to quantification of attributes, characteristics, parameters of objects and processes, with disambiguation, then it becomes understandable. For example, when you get into a hall, suppose in the hall that I am sitting, when you may have seen when you are delivering lecture somewhere, you go to a classroom and you have to decide, I have got 120 students, whether 120 students can be seated in this hall or not. So what you will say? You would catch hold of possibly some other teacher who may have taken class here. So teacher would say, well, I have never had 120 students, but I had 80, 90 students and they were comfortably sitting. Possibly 120 students would also be seated. So it is qualitative understanding. But if there is someone who says, let us find out what is the length and width of this classroom. Length and width, you see, you can measure. There is a meter scale, right? So in sciences, we have studied what is 1 meter. 1 meter is, वो हम लोगों ने स्कूल में पढ़ा था, साइंस के स्टूडेंट थे, तो फ्रांस की सेवर की प्रयोगशाला में कितने डिग्री सेल्सियस पे रखा हुआ है, जो उसको मीटर कहते हैं, 1 मीटर. So that is the standard meter, right? So you can, you have got a meter, so that is known as metric. So there is a scale to measure. When you have a scale to measure, that is known as a metric. So length and width you can measure, you have got a scale. So there are certain things that are directly measurable for which you can create a scale. So it was a great innovation, actually, when people started measuring length, width, height, right? Then people said, yes, very good. These are things that we can directly measure. But for finding out how many people can be seated in the hall, you need something else that is known as area. So what you would factually do, you will find out how much the total area of the hall is. You would find out how much area is required for seating one person, how much area is left to be left between the audience and the speaker, right? So on and forth. So that you could be able to work out how many people can be seated. So you see, you are going for disambiguation, and factually, that is what is creating knowledge also. That is what is making science. You are making a science. You see, area, for measuring area, there is no scale available. There is no direct metric available. You can't have any instrument, you can't have any tool to measure area. But if you know length and width of a hall, you can find the area. So area is known to be indirect metric. So area you can find, volume you can find if you know the height also. So So you can find out how much air would be available so that really 120 people should be seated in that room, even if it is possible, right? Whenever we go for quantitative assertion of some qualitative understanding, the making of science starts. Science goes for disambiguation of knowledge. Do you get this point? The same thing is possible when we are talking about literary piece of text. Suppose, as I told you, that when there is a text written by some literature author, you can make a table. In the first column, you can put distinct words that have been used. In the second column, you can put the frequency of occurrence of these individual words. So there are many interesting things that you can find out. I hope colleagues from social sciences and literary studies like English are listening carefully. May I be sure? In these online lectures, sometimes people put on things and put.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you from literary field? Brita?
No, sir. I am from social science. I am
very
from
good.
economics.
So I would be talking about some this understandings also. You see, the distinct words that are appearing there, they may be expressing certain emotional content or psychological conditioning. Like somebody who has been slapped very frequently in childhood would be making use of one type of words in the literary expression. Somebody who has a happy brought up with very understanding parents and society in which the person has lived would have different type of psyche. So you see, you can gauge by looking at the frequency of occurrence of words and collaborate with a person from psychology and find out psyche of the person. Now, if you take writings of a person in 1990, 2010, 2020, 2024, and you can find out that in the table that you created, in the first column you wrote the distinct words, and in the second column the frequency of occurrence of that word in the text, you would find in the different years these words may have experienced changes. Means some word that appeared with a very high frequency in 90s may have experienced decrease, means less frequently that is being used in the later text. For some other words, the frequency of occurrence might have got increased. Some words may have vanished from the texts that were being written. Some newer words may have got added. So you see, you can reflect how the psychological condition of a person who is a writer or author, or if you have received letters from some relative of yours. तो जैसे लोग नई नई शादियां करते हैं तो बहुत प्यार भरे खत लिखते हैं एक दूसरे को. And after some time, the number of the frequency of occurrence of the words that express these romantic emotions, they fade off, and they start using normal words of regarding the well-being and health, etc. And after some time, they may engage in quarrel also. So altogether, different types of words may be used in letters that are exchanged. So you can see the condition of understanding and the emotions being carried by people may change. So one thing is that you can make a qualitative observation कि भाई आजकल तो तुम बहुत गुस्से वाली चिट्ठियां लिखने लगे हो. And the other thing is being scientific and telling the number of words that expressed anger has gone up by this much. When you say that, then you are making a science. when you are doing quantification of these qualitative understandings, then you are describing the attributes of a piece of text in terms of the number of words of different psyche, different types of emotional outbursts, different types of emotional understandings of emotions. Do you get the point? So you are doing two things. One, you are collaborating with a person from psychology, and you are working out, you are going for disambiguation of knowledge in terms of the psychological condition of an author who is writing something. We have someone from literary studies from English. Who is from English? Are you able to hear me? Someone?
Yes, getting sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
सर मैं ये आज के क्वेश्चन सर सर आपने जो कहा कि क्लासरूम में लेंथ और विड्थ का जो हम करेंगे तो वो क्वांटिटेटिव होगा मतलब मात्रात्मक
measuring then it is quantitative मात्रात्मक
और लेकिन जैसे ही बच्चों का हम उसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स उसके गुण मनोविज्ञान का अध्ययन जब करेंगे तो वो क्वालिटेटिव होगा यानी गुणात्मक होगा
if you are just giving your understanding as you understand, you are likely to हो सकता है आपसे गलती हो जाए बताने में, आप किसी चीज को अच्छा कहें जबकि वो अच्छा नहीं है, मतलब वो उसमें जो अगला साइड जो सुनेगा उनकी समझ में और जो आपके दिमाग में समझती है दोनों में फर्क हो सकता है जी. When you are going for quantification, then you would go for actually you are going for a standardization also.
जी जी जी.
आप मानकीकरण भी कर रहे हैं कि किस तरह के शब्दों का संबंध किस तरह के समझ से है
जी. उसके कोडिफिकेशन करके और उसके जो सिमिलर है उसका मतलब उन सारे बच्चों का हम एक वोट करते हैं ये बच्चे इस तरह से ये बच्चे इस तरह से.
Yes, then you are creating a science.
जी जी.
Do you get this point? And not only you are creating a science,
जी जी जी.
you are able to collaborate with a person of other discipline also.
Yes, sir.
Somebody who is from English, I wanted to. Who was from English? Bhaskar?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you are from English. I will tell you, in English language, there are the same things we do in physics, chemistry also. I will come to physics, chemistry, mathematics also. In English literature, there are three types of characteristics of some oration or text. One is known as that the text is sanguine. Have you heard the word sanguine? Sanguine means bhavana pradhan.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sanguine is the psyche of a person. जो बात बात पे भावुक हो जाते हैं, ऐसे लोगों को sanguine कहते हैं.
Yes, sir.
There is another type of characteristic of a text that is known as choleric. Choleric को कहते हैं जो जिनको बात बात पे गुस्सा आ जाता है. And the third characteristic is known as melancholy.
Melancholy, yes, sir.
Yes, melancholy means udasinta.
Sad, yes, sir.
Right. Now you can relate these things with three things in Ayurveda. Do we have somebody from Ayurveda here? Okay, but let me tell you, there are three characteristics of human nature. That is known as, अगर आप किसी आयुर्वेद के डॉक्टर के पास जाइए तो एक मुहर लगाएंगे एक पन्ने पे, वातज पित्तज कफज. So factually, those who have choleric personality, जहाँ बार बार गुस्सा आता है, their characteristics is known as pittaj, bile secretion. If the bile secretion is heightened, then the person is choleric. Pith. गांव में कहते भी हैं कि जो बहुत गुस्सा करा कहते हैं इनका पित्त बढ़ा हुआ है. Those who are sanguine, they are factually कफज. कफज means जिनको बहुत ज्यादा नजला जुकाम ये सब रहते हैं, कफज प्रकृति के होते हैं. Sanguine. And there is melancholy जो है वो वातज प्रकृति के होते हैं, जिनको गैस वगैरह की प्रॉब्लम होती है, जो डकार लेते रहते हैं, गैस बहुत ज्यादा ब्लोटेड स्टमक हो जाता है. They are known as
Choleric.
melancholy. That is melancholy. melancholy. So you see now, we have brought in 3 disciplines. We have brought in psychology, psyche.
Yes, sir.
We have brought in some knowledge from Ayurveda regarding characteristics of human body. And we are studying literary piece of text.
Yes, sir.
So I'm giving you ideas regarding research also that you can do with interdisciplinary research. So factually, as I told, people are interested in knowing more and more about objects and processes. So when we go for qualitative expressions, then we are in the domain of arts. When we go for quantification of qualitative expressions, then creating of science is starting. Still, it is not science. When you will be able to describe the laws that govern writing of something, then it is creation of science. We have to reach to that level so that we create laws of nature. We locate factually, find out laws of nature. Not create laws, because we cannot create. The existence has already created laws of nature for us. We only can find out. Right? So laws of nature do exist, whether we like or not, whether we know or not. We may not be knowing, but the law may be existing. You get the point? We may not be knowing, but the law does exist. Like laws of climatology, how does rain occur? There are laws for it. लोग बताने लगते हैं कि बहुत उमस हो गई है, पानी बरसेगा. So there are characteristics that are known because this is a qualitative understanding. But sometimes you may have a lot of humidity, but the rain may not occur. And sometimes with a little humidity, some rain may occur. So there are many other things also that are responsible for a rain to occur. When you know laws in totality and with disambiguation, you know when the rain would occur or not. And that is how weather forecasting people do. They look at all the parameters and then they understand the laws of climatology and they predict whether rain would occur or not. And these days temperatures are predicted quite nicely. Gone are the days in our childhood when there would be a prediction from weathermen कि कल पानी बरसेगा, कल ठंडा रहेगा, तो लोग मान के चलते थे कल गर्मी पड़ेगी. उल्टा होता था. But today the science has got advanced, so they can predict what would be the temperature in the night. You see, that is why, because we have been able to create that science. We have been able to disambiguate and standardize the creation of knowledge and communication of the knowledge. Both the things. Okay? So what happens factually, the human race has been interested in knowing more and more about objects and processes. So they have been engaged in creating knowledge. So initially what they do? Initially they give qualitative understanding. And when quantification, disambiguation of knowledge, standardization of terms and their meanings lead to discovery of laws of nature, then the creation of science is happening. So creation of science is possible everywhere. I want to bring this point home. That is not only in physics, chemistry, mathematics, as I have shown you, in literary field also you can create science. You can talk about what type of persona would have what type of writing. So you have created knowledge with disambiguation. Looking at the number of texts, and these days it is not very difficult. You can have a computer, you can read individual texts, and the computer programs will be there that will create a table where in the first column distinct words should appear, in the second column the frequency of occurrence of these words should appear. And making of science should start. Because you can start looking at the psyche, you can start looking the characteristics of human body like Vata, Pitta, Kaphas. I am just talking about Ayurveda, but you can go to a biochemistry person also who can describe the biochemical processes. They are all interrelated. So factually, knowledge is not regimented. Knowledge about psychology, writing text, and Ayurveda or biochemical processes, they are all interrelated. But we are incapable of acquiring and understanding the knowledge in totality. So the human race has gone for regimentation of knowledge in various forms, and people study separately. For a long time, people studied, understood that biological processes are different, and chemical processes are exactly different. But later people understood that there is something known as a biochemical process. Right? So when you study, when you disambiguate knowledge and go more and more deeper, newer possibilities of studies, newer interesting questions arise that can address the concerns that the human race does have. So one thing is only teaching students regarding piece of text written by Shakespeare and Milton, what type of they wrote. You would find, if you are from English language, you will find people are writing 3 pages, 4 pages, and the teacher has to evaluate it. He or she has to understand the thought process that the student must have had while writing this. And then you try to understand who should get 90 out of 100 and who should get 50 out of 100. Right? But when you have got caught hold of a PhD student and you collaborated with a person from psychology and from biochemistry or Ayurveda, as I said, then you can take this as a research topic. It is the same question. Do you agree with me, social science people? Literature.
Yes, sir, I agree, sir.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you. So, you see how the same question at undergraduate level for delivering knowledge can lead to interesting concerns or questions at later stage for research-oriented studies and collaboration in research. If you come to Varanasi in the university, you will find in BHU, there is the arts, faculty of arts. So as you know, everywhere where faculty of arts is there, there are subjects related to humanities, means human relations, human creations, writings, etc., literature. So all these subjects are anthropology, history. They are studied in faculties of arts in various universities. But in the university here in BHU, and I think in other universities also, you will find a faculty of social science. You see, subjects are similar. You are studying about individuals and groups of people in humanities also and in sciences also, social sciences. Why is it called science? I would say that these subjects are science, known as science, because people have already started going for quantification of qualitative understanding. Like if you look at psychology, people have started looking at intelligence quotient, IQ. Right? If you go to sociology, people have started talking about happiness index. Am I correct? It is a quantification. You go to economics, people talk about profit, loss, which is again countable, measurable. People talk about even mood of the market in terms of Sensex. Is it okay? So you see, when people have gone for quantification of qualitative understanding, they have created a science. That is why they are known as social science. They are not full science converted, but they have started doing it. And today they have gone to a great extent where all the techniques of modeling, simulation, everything is used in market analysis, and you go to management, you go for more quantification understandings, but you make use of understandings of social sciences there also. Because ultimately all the management and marketing, everything is for society only. Right? So factually, every domain of study starts with art, means qualitative understanding. Then for going for disambiguation and standardization of knowledge so that it is conveyed and understood in the same way on the other side, people go for making a science of it. Okay? Now, in doing so, as I said, there are interesting research questions that come out. You have known more and more about the, say, attributes of text, like the number of words used, the number of words of different types used, different emotion and psyche used. So you are having interesting question that can you analyze persona and psyche of a person by analyzing the text that the person has written. And later you can write computer programs also, and you can do some computing and work out that. And still human mind would be there to operate. Not everything would be done by computers and programs. Then you will interpret the findings that the computer programs are giving by doing computations on analyzing the number of words, their relationships, etc. Okay? So as I said, laws of nature do exist, whether I know or not, whether I like or not. Laws of nature do exist. As long as I am not aware about laws of nature, the happenings are unpredictable. If I don't know how does rain occur under what conditions, then I cannot predict. But if I have calculated, then I can predict. That is what weather forecasting is doing today. Today they are able to tell what type of wind would be coming, when monsoon would come, whether it will be delayed, whether it will be heavy, it will be light. All the things it is possible today to make predictions, because we have, so that is what is the idea. Laws of nature do exist. When we do not know, but they exist. So as if they are covered. So if our research-oriented study, as I have explained, leads to revealing the truth of law of nature, then we say it is a discovery. Because we have removed the cover, the laws of the nature are now understandable. And that can be made use of also. So that is how we say that when you do research, finally discoveries are made. So discoveries are nothing but discovering laws of nature. As I said, factually, all the knowledge across the subjects is interrelated. But just because it is very difficult to understand the everything in under one discipline, known as knowledge. So we have gone for regimentation of it. We study psychology separately, we study literary studies separately, and we study biochemical processes separately, behavioral psychology separately. I mean, these are the regimentation of knowledge, but ultimately they are integrated. And that is how researchers try to do, they collaborate so that you can synthesize and know more and more about the laws of nature that do exist. So that is what science does. Now we can come to something known as physics. What are the laws of nature? Chai laye hain kya? De dijiye. Chai khali de dijiye, peete rahe. Aur cheez baat mein de dijiye. So some tea has come. If you have got tea around, where hai?
Break le lijiyega sir. 15-20 minute ka.
When you want break, you can tell me. In लोगों से पूछ लेते हैं.
Yes sir.
हाँ?
Yes sir.
Partha, Abhay, Nanda, Shachi, are the names that are appearing. Sanjay, do you want break or I should continue?
So 5:30, around 5-10 minutes break.
Okay, at 5:30. 10 minutes are left. Okay, we will do it at 5:30. Okay. So, let us look at physics. What does physics study? Physics talks about those laws of nature that can describe processes in terms of interaction among bodies involved in the process, that are describable in terms of physical attributes of the bodies involved in the process. Or objects, like if you are studying an object, then you would say length, width, color, either at nano scale or micro scale or macro scale, whatever scale it is. You can say that these are the physical attributes. So if any law you are going to, like law of velocity, law of movement or any law that you are law of nature, like gravitational force G, when you are like you say, there are two things that you should be able to. First, you should have direct metrics to measure directly measurable thing, and you have to find out a way of expressing the attribute of a process in terms of the directly measurable attributes of the bodies involved. Like force is equal to mass into acceleration, right? So you should have either finding out acceleration directly by a measurable device, and if it is not possible, then you will say, if I know velocity, I will be able to find out acceleration. You say velocity is also directly not measurable. So if I know the displacement and if I know the time elapsed, I can find out the velocity, right? So you are establishing the law of nature. That is how velocity is related to acceleration, how velocity is related to displacement, and how time is required to be considered to be able to talk about velocity and acceleration. You get this point? So physics talks about those laws of nature that are describable in terms of physical attributes of the bodies involved. Is it understandable what I am saying? It can be at any scale, nano scale, micro scale, etc. Normally we understand that physics is tougher than chemistry. I will quickly show you that physics is factually not tougher than chemistry. Physics is, it appears to be tougher because so much of quantification has taken place in physics. So much of quantification of qualitative understanding has been taken, so quantitative techniques need to be known, mathematical tools need to be understood properly so as to be able to understand the processes, physics of the processes that are being described. Thank you. Janardhan and the previous one who said yes. In chemistry, factually, when you don't have the quantification of characterization of processes or objects, chemistry is factually tougher. That is why in chemistry we have lesser questions of why we start with what happens when. You say, what happens when? That is what we memorize. कि अगर इसको इससे मिला दीजिएगा, if you will do that, then this is what would be the result. Then we are not talking about any quantification yet. Only we are saying what happens when. Right? And that is why whenever it is difficult to describe something, then we call it a chemistry. Like when two persons met, you say, two persons met and they developed a very good chemistry immediately. जहां भी बताना मुश्किल होता है उसको हम लोग, that is why I am saying chemistry is tougher. You may have seen a program in TV, Nach Baliye. उसमें बताते हैं ना कि your dance is very good with you two persons, male and female, performing the dance, but see, chemistry is missing. Have you heard this statement? कभी टीवी पे सुना है किसी ने?
Yes, sir.
What is what they want to say? That something interesting that we understand what it is, but unable to convey, but that is missing. And if your performance has become very good, you would say that there is good chemistry. Like when people say these days, when Modi meets another head of the state, develops a very good chemistry with the other person. ठीक है ना? But in chemistry, when you go for quantification of things, there is one physical chemistry, and if you go at quantum level, then factually difference between chemistry and physics vanishes, and there is a new name for such subject that is known as the chemical physics. वो chemistry वाले कौन थे हम लोगों के साथ? क्या नाम था chemistry की? वो शची क्या नाम था उनका?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes. Are you aware about chemical physics?
Sir, I have heard about biophysics.
There is something known as a chemical physics also. When you go at quantum level,
Okay, sir.
right? And then you do computational chemistry there. That is known as chemical physics,
Okay.
which is not physical chemistry.
Okay.
तो इसको सर्च करके पढ़ना.
Okay, sir. Okay.
then difference between chemistry and physics vanishes at quantum level when you go and when you realize these things. So what I'm trying to say, that laws of nature are the one, but because in entirety we are unable to address them simultaneously, so we study laws that are describable through physical attributes are studied separately, and that are describable through chemical attributes. What are chemical attributes? Chemical attributes are factually the characteristics of the subject matter contained inside the body involved. You see, physical attributes are length, weight, etc., etc. But when you are talking about ionic characteristics, right? Chemical attributes are the intrinsic characteristics of the subject matter involved within the body. When you are talking about physical attributes, you are not saying, when you are saying mass, you are not saying whether it is iron or cotton or wood. You are only saying mass and acceleration. You are not talking about the intrinsic characteristic of the matter involved. ठीक है Shachi?
Sir, yes, sir.
Right. When you are talking about chemistry, then you are talking about intrinsic subject matter. You start with what happens, but you go to whys also. That is why chemistry is tougher than physics. When you talk about biochemical processes, means when you are talking about chemical processes inside the body, but you are talking about the biological influences on the chemical processes, or you are talking about the influences of chemical processes and biological processes. जैसे होता है ना, कहते हैं कि दिमाग में थोड़ा तबीयत नहीं ठीक, कहते हैं कि there is some chemical disturbances. सिनेमा वाले उसको chemical लोचा बोल देते हैं, right? So chemical processes are affecting the behavioral psychology, the biological processes inside the body that are happening, like understanding, actions, etc. And biological processes define the chemical processes. तो जैसा हम लोग अन्न खाते हैं, वैसे chemical processes होते हैं, उससे हमारा psyche निर्माण होता है, किस तरह हम सोचते हैं, the type of food that we consume. कहते हैं जैसा सोचना शुरू करेंगे, विचार करेंगे, वैसे chemical processes भी हो जाएंगे. So you see, biological processes of thinking, of getting affected by people, they influence our chemical processes inside. So if you want to study the combined effect of both biological and chemistry together, then you talk about biochemical processes, biochemistry. और भी कोई chemistry का था ना? शशि के अलावा भी कोई था? I think you may be from different places, so you may not be knowing each other. Is it so? Or you are from same places?
So also material chemistry also very much common, material chemistry. So different.
Right, obviously, in materials you go and you talk about chemistry. That is where distinction between physics and chemistry starts disappearing. Chemical physics, etc. You are from different places, Sanjay. Thank you, Sanjay. Sanjay Pal. So you see, that it is not sufficient to study biological processes separately and chemical processes separately, so you study biochemistry. Okay, I think now it is going to be 5:30, so we can stop here. Then I will come back and I will continue with how the research questions are done, and I will give you some newer words that I am trying to explain you only. So we can break for some. How many minutes you would like? 5, 10?
10 minutes, sir. 10 minutes.
No, I don't make it more than 10 minutes because I have got some interesting things to tell.
Yes, sir.
Interesting as per my understanding. I don't know how interesting it is to you.
No, sir, you are giving a very interesting talk. We are enjoying a lot.
Yes.
Thank you, friends.
No, sir, very interesting, sir.
Thank you very much. I am happy that you are liking it because I am trying to give my understanding. I will be talking more about engineering, technology, and all relationships. So every subject factually has its art, science, engineering, and technology. So we will break for 10 minutes. We are going to be back at 5:40. अगर कोई रहेगा खोल देगा. Hello friends, I am back. If somebody is available, we can start talking.
So we can start, sir.
We can start, no? Because roughly, yes, all people are present. Welcome back, dear friends. So, as I told you, there are three words that are interchangeably used. Like, these words are issues, challenges, and problems. People say that, suppose there is a conference, they would say issues, let us say, in biochemistry. लोग कहेंगे भाई अगले साल अब दूसरा कॉन्फ्रेंस सेमिनार करना है, कहने के बाद कह दीजिए challenges in biochemistry. अगले साल कहेंगे फिर क्या वही नाम रखना है, कह देंगे problems in biochemistry. Or for that matter, any other subject, in literary studies, in economics, in physics, chemistry. Why are these words interchangeably used and what is factually their meaning? So factually, as I said, concerns of individuals, groups and society. These concerns, they are identified as issues if there is some work has to be done to be able to understand. Like, suppose somebody comes and says that I have to perform a puja at a Vishwanath temple. We are in Kashi, so Vishwanath temple is very popular. People are coming to Varanasi for performing puja at Kashi Vishwanath or paying a darshan, visiting the Kashi Vishwanath. But somebody makes a statement that I want to perform a puja in a Vishwanath temple, Shiva temple. So factually I would tell you, there is a Shiva temple inside our campus also. Near my institute, inside the BHU campus, there is a Shiva temple, Vishwanath temple, known as Vishwanath temple. So if somebody said in any Vishwanath temple I can perform the puja, a Vishwanath temple means any Vishwanath temple. If you say the Vishwanath temple, then you have to go to the city. So I will say it is no issue. Why? Because the Vishwanath temple in the campus is very near to my department, so I can always take my guests to the Vishwanath temple. So it is no issue for me. Although it is a concern of my guest, she wants to pay visit to the Vishwanath temple, and I want to facilitate this visit to the Vishwanath temple. So it is our concern. But this concern, I would say, no issue. No issue. Why? Because there is no difficulty in that. But as and when she would say, I want to pay visit to the Vishwanath temple that is there in the city, it becomes an issue for me. Why? Because there is too much of crowd these days, so I should find out when it will be possible. I should catch hold of somebody who would take my guests to the Vishwanath temple, or myself would have to be spare time and travel, and then finding out some method so that it doesn't take too much of time because my guest has to go back also. So when there are difficulties and constraints associated with the concern that is being considered, then it becomes an issue. Okay? So this I am trying to explain you when you should make use of the word issue and when you should say that it is only a concern. It is because of concerns only that we are looking at the characteristics of things we are concerned, so we want to know more and more about projects. Concerns because of multiple reasons, because we want to know the psyche of a person, so you are studying biochemistry. So all this, you see, interesting questions and method of investigation lead to more interesting research questions. That is how research questions get generated. Factually, the constraints and difficulties encountered in considering a concern, they make the challenges. So when we are addressing an issue, we come across multiple constraints and difficulties, and these constraints and difficulties form the challenges. For example, I will tell, suppose we take schooling of children. The same thing you will do in sciences also, in physics, chemistry also. You want to know more about characteristics of material, like smart material, right? Smart material is what? A material that delivers characteristics as per the condition and requirement. So if you have got a wire, it should deliver the same conductivity under -50 temperature and +50 temperature also, right? So if you can make a material that can cope with both the conditions, you will say my material is a smart material. Okay? You are interested. This is your concern. With this concern, there are challenges because you have to worry about you have to find out such a material. And if there is no such material, you would like to synthesize such material. We have material scientists here. Somebody was speaking about material characteristics. Who was speaking? Sanjay Paul or who? Somebody talked about. Right? Who talked about material characteristics? Sachi, did you talk about? Sachi Mishra?
No, sir. Sir, Parth Haldar probably talked about
Parth
this.
Haldar talked about. Maybe he is still taking tea.
Yeah, yes.
You are here. Okay. So that's good. That's very great that you are back. So you see, when you have concern, if there are associated challenges in forms of constraints and difficulties, then you have an issue. When you are addressing an issue, necessarily you will come across challenges. So whatever area you are interested in doing research, find out the concerns of academicians, professionals, industry, society, and then find out constraints and difficulties in addressing those concerns. You have created an interesting research issue. I am giving an idea of finding newer research issues that are, you see, the great people who write research papers in your discipline, they actually write about interesting concerns that are bothering the minds of scientists, engineers, society, technologists, or social scientists. The society is worrying about why terrorism is going on. What is the process of because of which some human psyche becomes terrorist psyche? You get this point? So attributes of human psyche, attributes of the group psyche, and these things make so issues, challenges. Let us look at issue of schooling of children. I am taking examples from social sciences so that it can be interesting to everybody. Concern of educating children. So the very first, this is a concern of individuals, parents, society, government, everybody is concerned. Good schooling of children. What are the constraints and difficulties, challenges? That do we have sufficient financial resources to establish schools? Factually, the government doesn't have. That is why you will find so many private schools coming up. If we have financial resources, then government would do, or otherwise they will invite the society to establish schools. It will have only a regulatory authority in granting permissions and recognitions, but private players should be allowed to establish schools. So do we have sufficient financial resources? That is one constraint or difficulty in having good schooling. The other could be whether parents would be interested in sending their wards to schools. Parents may not be interested in sending their wards to schools because the child may be participating in earning livelihood of the family. हो सकता है कि माता पिता के साथ बच्चा काम कर रहा हो कि उसको खाना मिले. You get this point? So there are issue of schooling children, that is a concern, but there are associated constraints and difficulties. Another constant or difficulty may be, do we have sufficiently trained human resource to become teacher? Do we have sufficiently trained human resource to become teacher? If sufficiently trained, sound mind people are not teachers, then the boys and girls in schools may get spoiled rather than getting education. Right? So these are constraints and difficulties. These constraints and difficulties form the challenges. 3 words I had said: issues, challenges, and problems. So if you nicely analyze the issues, challenges, you can come to problems. So what problem we can identify? Parents may not be interested in sending to their wards to school, because if the child would not be participating, earning livelihood, then sufficient food would not be family, and there would be a problem for the food of the child itself. Parents are more worried about food of the child rather than themselves. You see, our country took so many years to understand that midday meal is a problem. Solution came after so many years. When we were young, this solution was not there, midday meal. But now it has come. Then parents can happily go and work because they know that the midday meal would be available to my child. I don't need to be at home to prepare food. I need to do my work. And because both are working as laborers, maybe on farm or in factories somewhere, my child would be taken care of in the school and the food would be available. Am I audible? Everybody is listening to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's very good. So try the same thing would you do in physics also, in material science also, in chemistry also. The concern, the professional concern, the engineering concern, the product making concern you take and find out associated constraints and difficulties. And then there will be small or big problems that need solution. So midday meal came as a problem. Similarly, dropout rates of girls in schools. For a long time in our society, we did not know that dropout rates of girls in the schools after class 4th, 5th, etc. is very high just because toilets are not there in the school. You see, even girls who had their parents as teachers, they never told their parents also कि वहाँ toilet नहीं है इसलिए मुझे school नहीं जाना है. There are multiple other difficulties also क्योंकि लड़के रास्ते में छेड़ते हैं या और कोई problem है. So there are many difficulties because of which, so all these problems are now getting identified. आप देखिए नए-नए solutions उसके निकाले जा रहे हैं. So when you address a concern and issue, you come across multiple challenges to be tackled, and challenges are in form of constraints and difficulties, and you end up at a problem or good number of problems that need solution. Normally we talk about a forward traceability, that starting from concern, issue, challenges, you can find out what are the problems, and starting from a problem, you can find out what are the challenges that yield this problem, and under the context of what concern or issue that these problems are there. There may be problem that may be there for multiple issues, like issue of girl working in a company. Similar issues are there कि बीच में रास्ते में छेड़खानी हो रही है. You see? So when you address nicely the concerns, issues and challenges and problems, then you provide solutions to the problem. That is what you have to do in research. You have to start with a concern and look at whether it is an issue or not. When it becomes an issue, when the society is interested and there are difficulties in addressing this concern in form of constraints and difficulties. The challenges are there. And then you look at small big problems that need solution. I hope you are able to understand me what I am trying to convey. If there is any difficulty, you can stop me. I will repeat this part. Because it is very crucial for your research that you identify issues, challenges. If you take an area, I'll write a good paper, a review paper. You look at all research papers written on that topic and find out the professional and scientific issues and the social issues that are being addressed here, and make tables of challenges and problems. You will do a great contribution in the field in which you are doing research. So that was one point that I had to tell you. So starting from this, initially when you give qualitative understanding, you are remaining in the domain of art. If you will go for quantification and disambiguation, you will start doing research and you will start opening the laws of nature. Like as I said, in physics, when you start talking about force, in terms of mass and acceleration, you are finding a law of nature factually. When F equal to ma was first found, it was factually a law of nature. Similarly, when you duality principle, Heisenberg's duality principle, when it was, that was a law of nature that was discovered. Through experiments or through inductive and deductive techniques, analytical techniques, you do that. Actually, there are two ways of doing research. One is known as analytical or theoretical science. The other is known as experimental science. Suppose I am interested in knowing some characteristic. As I told you, area I cannot measure, but if I know length and width, I can measure area. So when I am giving area is equal to length and width, and volume is equal to length and width and height, factually I am giving a law of nature. And with disambiguation, in unambiguous form I am representing. You do more and more research, you discover more and more laws of nature. So this process of disambiguation of laws of nature factually starts from concerns of society, as I said in the very beginning. The concerns that we have, it becomes an issue. In addressing that issue, we find out what are the constraints and difficulties. Normally what you would see, what you would do, that you would initially not consider all the constraints and difficulties. When you are solving a problem in the context of constraints and difficulties, challenges, you specify a problem. Like problem of midday meal. Constraints are what? Parents are working, right? And problem is midday of meal. So parents cannot make the meal. So you have to provide solution to this. So midday meal be arranged at the school itself, right? So when you would be doing that, initially what is done is, that problem is simplified. Means as if constraints and difficulties, all the constraints and difficulties do not exist. Only some, because the boy or girl may not be coming to school just because of the midday meal. There can be other reasons also. कि गलत संगत में पड़ गया है, बाहर खेलने में ज्यादा मजा आ रहा है, स्कूल में उसको उतना मजा नहीं आ रहा है, तो स्कूल में क्या करेंगे, खेल खेल में पढ़ाना शुरू करेंगे. So there are many constraints and difficulties. You are considering only the food. Why? Because you are simplifying the problem and trying to find out solution for one problem at a time. Not all the problems. कि बच्चे का मन नहीं लगता है स्कूल में, this boy or girl is not interested in doing studies because it is more interesting to go on the playground or playing with other children where the parents are working on the side. जहाँ मजदूर का काम कर रहे हैं parents, वहाँ जा करके. So there are multiple challenges that need to be tackled for solution to the problem of bringing the boy or girl to school. But first you do what? You consider only one constraint and ignore as if other constraints do not exist. Other difficulties do not understand. So what you have done? You have simplified the problem and solved it and find a solution to that. Although the problem of bringing the child to school has got many difficulties. It is not only the food. There are other things also. The other could be paying fee. So such students should be brought to government schools. You may have heard that government has come up with a law that the private schools also will have to accommodate some poor children. Suna hai ki nahi aap logon ne? Some percentage is there. Yes, that is why, because financially parents may be poor. That is another problem. So whenever you have a problem of establishing a relationship between y and different x, like area in terms of length, and if I know length and width, I can find area. Similarly, I can find out drop rate of girls, decrease or increase in terms of the problem of toilet, the number of toilets increased in the schools, number of police people put on the streets so that girls are not intimidated, they are not put to problems. Then you will find that the dropout rate would increase. So you can study dropout rate as a function of these parameters. toilets, number of toilets increasing in the school, the number of policemen doing their duty properly so that they can be brought to the school, etc., etc., and providing dress. And you may have known that some chief minister provided cycle to girls. क्योंकि घर में लोग कहते हैं कैसे जाओगी, 15 किलोमीटर कैसे जाएगा, किसी की मोटरसाइकिल पे बैठ के जाने नहीं देंगे और खुद जा नहीं सकती. तो एक कोई गवर्नमेंट थी, हमें लगता है शायद बिहार में, जब साइकिल दिया गया था लड़कियों को. इनिशियली क्या होता था,
in UP BSP government also provided
right, it was done. And similarly, not only this, there were other things also done. Like society में क्या हुआ कि पहले लोग मोटरसाइकिल स्कूटर खाली लड़के चला सकते थे, लेकिन जब से मोपेड और स्कूटी आई, लड़कियों की पढ़ाई पे बहुत फर्क पड़ा, क्योंकि उसको हैंडल कर सकती थी वो. और फिर उसमें भी किक मारने वाला खत्म हो गया, वो बटन से स्टार्ट करने वाला आ गया. तो और जो लड़कियों सी ड्रॉप आउट रेट ऑफ गर्ल्स इन स्कूल and increase in the rate of girls visiting the schools got increased. So as a social scientist, you can analyze the relationship between dropout and the function of number of scooties being provided and cycle, financial condition poor hai to free mein de diya. So dropout rate of girls got decreased, enrollment got increased. So just like in physics, you can have y equal to function of maybe xi's. And these xi's are factually, you can find out, you can do dy by dx, just as you do in physics or chemistry. Y is the dropout rate, and x is the first parameter, midday meal, the second is toilet, the third is law enforcement, the fourth is facilitation by giving cycles and providing moped and scooty, etc. You see, you are making science of it in studying this process. So as I had told you, that in sciences, the physics, chemistry, biology, all these things factually, they do the same thing. They study some interesting concern or question, which if it is an issue, you find out all the constraints and difficulties and set the challenges. You first simplify the problem and study only as a function of only one constraint or difficulty being removed by some rate. And you study what is the effect on the process that you are interested in studying. Then you add more. Once you have solved the simplified problem, now you can add more and more constants. Chemistry people, have you studied this as Shachi? Have you studying such equations and adding more constants simplified? Anybody from physics?
Yes, sir. Constants are added like in van der Waals, gas, ideal gases.
Initially, you solve a simplified problem, then you start adding more and more constraints and solve the complex problem. Saral se kathin ki taraf.
Yes.
So that is how research-oriented investigations are made. Okay? If that is good, let me tell you now what is engineering. What is engineering? Engineering is, you may have heard a statement, people may have said somewhere, a riot engineered by a section of society. Although I don't believe in this, that some society, some group of people, they engineer a riot. But obviously there are people who engineer riot. What do we want to say when we say people engineered riot? A group of persons, people. Not necessarily of one community, a group of people. What we mean to say, that the riot was not something that the Mother Nature had planned or the existence had planned. The riot was not planned by the Mother Nature. It was made to happen. That is why we say riot engineered by a group of people. दंगा जो है वो कुछ लोगों के समूह ने करवाया. Right? That is a great thing that happens when we discover laws of nature. So as I said, you do discovery, you discover laws of physics, chemistry, biochemistry, laws of social sciences, how the crowd, how do you describe crowd, how people get infuriated. So what is the law of social sciences that is used in creating riot? If suppose there is a community P, people and community Q people and living at some location A, and people of the same community P and Q living in some location B. If people at location B of community P come to know that people of community Q attacked people of community P there, then at location B, people of community P will get infuriated and they would start attacking people of community Q also. So that is law that can be described by group psychology. भीड़ की psychology, crowd की psychology से describe हो सकता है. Right? You see, minutely look at it. The law doesn't say that necessarily something may have happened at location A. Nothing may have happened. Only a rumor would be sufficient. So you see, law clearly identifies what it is and what it is not. That is why laws of nature are so important, that unambiguously disambiguation of the knowledge that is being communicated. So one thing is that really something may have happened because of which the riot may occur, but mischievously if somebody does it, spreading rumor, it may have been a simple incident कि दो लड़कों का झगड़ा हो गया at location A, लेकिन B में आके बताया कि नहीं वो ग्रुप ने तय किया, 10 लोगों ने जाके मारा और riot हो गया at location B also. Right? So when group of people are unnecessarily trying to create such type of situation, you say a riot engineered by a section of society. Similarly, suppose I know the laws of climatology and understand how does rain occur. So in the hall that I am sitting in, I can create such conditions so that rain would occur. So I have engineered a rain inside a hall. You may have seen in films, etc., you will find that they engineer rain. In many countries, when there is too much of pollution, the rain is artificial rain is engineered, is made to take place. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? So that is what is engineering. Engineering makes use of laws of nature, laws of existence, to make something happen that has not been planned by the mother nature, otherwise in this space and this time. Do we have somebody from engineering here? चलिए नहीं तो कोई बात नहीं, आप जान जाइए कि क्या होता है. Engineering is making use of laws of nature to understand something. You see, problems are very interestingly identified. पहले हिंदुस्तान में क्या होता था या दुनिया में कि टैक्सी से आपको कहीं जाना है, आप चौराहे पे कहीं खड़े हैं, you are standing on some crossroad, and there may be on the nearby crossroad or nearby behind some building some taxis standing and they don't have any traveler. तो दोनों का एक दूसरे का पता नहीं है, although they are very nearby, and there can be many such cars with taxi drivers available in the nearby, but the person who has to travel doesn't know that they are present here, and those who are the taxi drivers, they don't know that there is somebody who is waiting for a taxi. So the concern of taxi driver that they require a traveler, and of the traveler is searching for a taxi. Do you see the concern? It becomes an issue for the traveler. तो क्या कहेगा, भाई साहब आगे जाइएगा जरा देखिए, अगर कोई टैक्सी खड़ी हो तो भेज दीजिएगा, कोई ऑटो खड़ा हो तो भेज दीजिएगा. उसका है solution. But technology has helped now. You see Ola, Uber, Rapido. I hope in every city now it is there. Ola, Uber, everybody has heard about it, right? So they have addressed this question, this issue, and it has been solved easily because internet is there. तो आपने खाली हाथ मिलवा दिया. So now there is a new business of operating taxi services without having any car, without having any driver. So Ola, Uber are companies, taxi service companies that don't have any car. उन्होंने कोई खरीदा नहीं, खरीद दूसरे लोग रहे हैं, चलने वाले भी दूसरे, थोड़ा सा वो कमा रहे हैं इस सुविधा का कि दोनों को मिला दिया. मैच मेकिंग शुरू हो गया है, शादी.com पहले लोग नाई से और पंडित जी से कहते जरा पता करिएगा, कोई लड़का अच्छा हो तो बताइएगा, कोई लड़की अच्छी हो तो बताइएगा. You get this problem. So you are looking at the concerns of people and you make science of it, knowing the real reason, and then you apply these things to engineer a solution. So you see, engineering is not only for engineers. In your domain of studies where you are, you can engineer new solutions to various problems in whatever discipline you are. That is why my objective of this lecture was to introduce you what is research and talk about how making of science starts, how engineering is done. If that much is okay, let me move to something known as technology. What is technology? Have you heard about, somebody would tell what is technology, your understanding, how technology is different from engineering? कहते हैं ना कि इंडिया के पास ये टेक्नोलॉजी है, उनके पास ये टेक्नोलॉजी है. Anybody from sciences would like to, or from humanities, anybody? What is technology? Roughly जो जानते हो बताइए.
Sir, technology is hardware.
Part of the instrument.
Okay. वैसे दो शब्द और भी हैं जिनको इनकी समझ होना चाहिए. एक को कहते हैं टूल, एक को कहते हैं इंस्ट्रूमेंट. दोनों का फर्क मालूम है? कब किसको कहते हैं टूल, किसको कहते हैं इंस्ट्रूमेंट? Any idea? What is the difference?
The instrument is generally used to measure something actually.
And what tool for?
Measuring something, and tool is used to give some shape, to use to.
Okay, I will tell you the difference so that for all times to come you understand the difference. You see, a tool does not know what it is doing. It is only the user of the tool knows what is being done. Like, if somebody asks you that कि जा करके उनसे ये बात कह दीजिए, और आपने जाके कह दिया, और वो आदमी जो गुस्से होकर के उसने आपको एक झापड़ लगा दिया, तो आप कहेंगे you are unnecessarily slapping me. I have been used as a tool. I did not know what for I am being used. So when you are used as a tool, you don't feel happy. What it means, the poor tool does not know what is being done. It is only the user of the tool knows what is being done. So when you are using a voltmeter to find the voltage difference between 2 points, then you use as a tool, you take the probe and put on the 2 points and you measure the voltage. But instrument knows what it is doing. Suppose you settled some marriage between a boy and girl. So you will happily say everywhere, I am happy that I was instrumental in getting this marriage settled. Because you are knowing what you are doing. You are part of the process of settlement of the marriage. और अगर मैरिज में झगड़ा होगा तो आप ये भी कह सकते हैं कि I am sorry that I was really instrumental in this getting this marriage settled, but it failed. Tools are not always physical objects. Humans can also be tools. A person may be used as a tool. As you say, as I told, I have been used as a tool. So I am not a only physical object, I am a living body. My mind was persuaded to do something. And I did unknowingly. जैसे कोई आप सामान लेके जा रहे हों, आप कोई कहे कि भाई साहब ये हमारा जरा पकड़ लीजिएगा सामान. आपने सामान पकड़ लिया, बाद में पता लगा कि वो तो रिस्ट्रिक्टेड है, प्रोहिबिटेड है, और बाद में आप पकड़ लिए, गिरफ्तार हो गए. Then you have been used as a tool. But if you knowingly do it, then you are instrumental in getting that thing transported. Is it okay? Is it okay?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, nice. So, what I was talking about, we have to talk about technology. You see, when I was young, I had to go abroad for studies. So, having been born in a very staunch vegetarian family, I had to go abroad, so I was very much worried. How would I manage food for me? Those days, vegetarian foods were not such easily available as they are available now, Europe and US, because everywhere too many Indians are there. Indians are very valuable people. So everywhere you have Indian restaurants also. So those days it was not very easy. So I thought I should learn how to cook food before I leave for another country where I have to study. And I had to stay there for a good number of years. So I thought that I should learn how to cook food. So I approached my sister-in-law and I started learning how to cook food. So it was not very difficult to learn how to cook dal, sabji, rice. But when it came to baking chapatis, then there was a problem. Because my sister-in-law, she told, it is very easy, take flour, आटा ले लीजिए, pour water gently, जैसे कि जेंट्स लोग सब अच्छा काम करते हैं, pour water gently, then stir it, मिला दीजिए पानी आटे में, make dough, माने सान लीजिए, dough माने आटा. Till that time I did not know that there are two different doughs for chapati and puri. दोस्तों अलग-अलग तरह का आटा सनता है, मुझे नहीं मालूम था. Because when I started making dough, then I was told कि कैसे भाई करिए कि रोटी वाला आटा बने, पूरी तो मुझे बनाना नहीं था रोज. Then she told that pluck a small piece, छोटा सा लोई काट लीजिए, put it on the platform, चौखट पर रखिए, roll it, बेलन से roll it, and roll it in such a manner so that you get a round shape. After you have got a round shape, then put it on the hot plate and try to understand how much you should wait before you flip it so that the chapati gets baked from both the sides. Then you take the chapati and show flame. Usko aanch dikhaiye. You see, I failed miserably. When I was making the dough, I failed how much water I should put in, how कैसे डो बनाए, सानना कैसे उसको आटे को. Then I failed in taking how much dough should be taken out to make one chapati. Then when I started rolling on the platform, I got every shape but not the round shape. When I did put it on the hot plate, it was difficult for me to understand when to flip it so that it is nicely done from both the sides. When I had shown flame, I did not know how to do it so that it gets puffed. जैसे रोटी फूल जाए. When I asked my sister-in-law how to learn it, then she told the same thing, that was the answer of the artist, the painter. She said, if you are really interested in learning how to make chapatis, then sit by my side and observe. If you are really interested and keenly interested, slowly you would learn how to make chapati. You see, she cannot explain. Although she tells, but I am unable to understand. So unambiguously, she is able to not to give instructions so that I quickly learn. So I have to observe. It is the same thing that artist had done. So factually, that is why technology is known as know-how. So what is technology? Set of techniques applied in appropriate order to achieve a desired engineering effect. Making a chapati is an engineering. People know the laws of nature कि आटा बनाना है, फिर पानी से सानना है, फिर बेलना है, फिर रखना है, फिर आंच दिखाना है. ये तो process procedure है. But knowing only the engineering process is not sufficient. Techniques are to be applied in appropriate order so as to be able to. And that is why it is known as know-how also. Technology is known as know-how. You may have heard earlier, those who are from bioengineering, etc., that people used to go to European countries to learn gene separation technology. Has somebody heard here about cryogenics? Chemistry people may have heard. Cryogenics.
Sir, yes, sir.
Right? What it is?
Sir, very low temperature is used.
Right, very good. So let me tell you where it is used. When rockets are sent into space, you see there is a payload, the rocket itself, and then you have to put fuel. So earlier what used to happen, the payload, the weight of the real rocket used to be much smaller than the weight of the fuel itself. Or you can say the weight of the fuel used to be many times more than the payload that was to be carried, the rocket itself. What will happen when the fuel was being burned? Then the weight of the fuel tank would keep changing. So what will happen is the center of gravity of the whole system would keep changing. And that is why the controlling the trajectory was very difficult. तो पहले जैसे सुना होगा कि बहुत सारा रॉकेट जाता था, कहीं समुद्र में गिर गया, कहीं किसी जगह गिर गया, स्काई लैब थी एक बार गिर गई थी. So the challenge was to identify a fuel that can be small in weight but can release heavy energy. That is where cryogenics came into this thing. Cryogenic materials, when burned, they release heavy energy with a smaller weight. So the center of gravitation would not change that rapidly. And controllability is easier. But it was to be learned how to create cryogenic materials, how to store them in tank, how to burn them, how to create energy out of that. And as you, as Shachi Mishra, I think, as she told, they work on at very low temperature, right? At low temperature, what happens, in any engine that you will have inside, they have rubberized insulation, glassware, these are various materials. At low temperature, these materials start brittling and cracking. So, set of techniques were required to process such materials, produce such materials, making fuel out of it, putting in the engine, maintaining the sub-zero temperature for it, and devising the whole cryogenic engine for carrying the rocket and the payload. That was known as cryogenic technology, know-how. So initially when India wanted to have cryogenic technology, it did not have. So it requested Russia to give cryogenic engines and cryogenic technology. Russia agreed also. But America at that point of time said that they put an embargo that Russia cannot provide technology to India. They can give the engines but not the technology. Why India wanted to have technology? Because India had technology but it did not know how good it is. So they wanted to compare with what Russian technology is, so as to be able to produce their own cryogenic engines. It did not get, so India developed its technologies, means know-how of creating materials, converting energy, material into the energy, channelizing and managing the energy to make engines, and then having flights. So actually what happens, this know-how of set of techniques applied in appropriate order to achieve desired engineering effect is not very easy. One needs to learn. Describing it in terms of textbooks, etc. is not very easy. So, factually, a science of technology also needs to be developed. So if you go to subjects like department like material science and technology, you first develop science of materials, their characteristics, etc. Then you engineer a new material, and materials are to be put in place. So you have to set up techniques in order to make use of the characteristics of the material. That is why material science and technology. So actually, I started understanding these things when students of mine, because I am a professor of computer science and engineering. So when our courses are known as BTech in computer science and engineering. So when I was a young teacher like you people, a student of mine came to me and said that my name of my course is BTech in Computer Science and Engineering. What are we going to study? Are we going to study science or engineering of it or technology or all of that? That is where from it occurred to my mind that as a teacher I should have clear-cut distinction between science, engineering, technology, when we teach in engineering, what is a tool, what is the instrument, I should understand that also difference. That is what I am conveying today in your class. So it is not a prepared material from any book or anywhere. I'm just trying to convey of my understandings, of my experiences of teaching the engineering, technology and sciences and relating it with humanities, etc. because I have had some literary interest in the past. So I try to relate to that also. So you see, set of technologies applied in appropriate order to achieve a desired engineering effect is known as technology. Okay? So everything starts with art, goes through science, then making use of laws of discovered by the science to make something happen, that is engineering. And when you understand how it can be made happen, to factually organize the processes to make that engineering is known as techniques or technology to obtain that. So now you can, you see, you can do it any domain that you are studying. If you are a social scientist, you can study how riots occur, how people become terrorists. You see, that is a big global problem today. And this society has to be understood. There was a time when growth of a nation was measured only by something known as GDP, gross domestic product, or GNP, gross national product. I hope you all are aware about GDP, GNP, right? But what people found that in, thank you Sanjay, in many countries GDP is very good, GNP is also very good. But like in America, some boy or girl would come with a gun and shoot all the classmates, etc. Anybody can take out a gun and kill people. You may be coming across such types of things. Or somebody becomes a terrorist. So people started thinking, or in a country like ours, there is good deal of progress, economic progress, but there may be people who are finding difficulty to arrange food for themselves. You know, in country now we are third largest economy in the world, but we are a country also that requires to provide food to 80 crore people every year. Pata hai aapko na? It doesn't mean that those 80 crore people are not working. They are working. But the remuneration that they get is not sufficient for feeding their family. That is why government has to give. It has a responsibility. The major responsibility of the government was that they should have proper remuneration of the work that they do so that they can feed their family. But that bigger problem the government is unable to address today. जैसे किसान हैं, अगर उनको बहुत ज्यादा पैसा दे देंगे आपका, तो लोगों को सामान खरीदने में दिक्कत आएगी. And business can thrive only when people have purchasing power. When people won't have purchasing power, तो सब पैदा करके भी क्या करिएगा, कोई खरीदारी नहीं होगा. So it is an involved and difficult question, right? So what you do, you tax people, give taxes, those who can, and then you feed people who don't have sufficient remuneration. So always think कि government कोई दया नहीं कर रही जो 80 करोड़ लोगों को खाना दे रही. उसमें से बहुत कम ही लोग ऐसे जो कुछ नहीं करते हैं. Mostly they are working in farms, they are laborers, मजदूर हैं, जिनको रोज काम ही नहीं मिलता वो. There are people who want to work but they don't get work. तो उनको भी भोजन की व्यवस्था करनी पड़ती है. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
You are right, sir.
There are people who want to work, they don't have work. There are people who are working, they are not getting sufficient remuneration. That is why we have to give food to 80 crore people. For last 5 years, you see. Although there is a politics also because you keep those happy, but it is a responsibility of the government also. The main responsibility is to provide such work so that they have sufficient remuneration to be able, क्योंकि कोई आदमी देखिए भिक्षा मांग करके कोई नहीं अपना परिवार चलाना चाहता. हर आदमी चाहता है मुझसे काम करवाइए, मुझे पैसा दीजिए और मैं आत्मसम्मान के साथ I will be able to support my family. Right? So there are countries that have good GDP, but their psyche of people is such कि वो बंदूक निकाल के मार दे रहे हैं. कुछ जगह ऐसी है जहाँ खाना नहीं दिया जा रहा है, उनको बताया जा रहा है कि आपकी सब प्रॉब्लम्स की जड़ तो दूसरी कम्युनिटी है, तो वो दंगा कर रहे हैं. कुछ कंट्रीज ऐसी हैं जहाँ समझा दिया गया कि हमको कोई रहने नहीं दे रहा है, तो वो टेररिस्ट हो जा रहे हैं. So and there may be such countries that have good well-being, GDP है, चीजें पैदा हो रही हैं, तभी प्रॉब्लम है. इसी इंडिया में प्रॉब्लम है खाना खाने की. 80 करोड़ बहुत बड़ी पॉपुलेशन होती है. 80 करोड़ माने 800 million you see. And the population of countries in Europe is 25 million, 25. I think the largest population in a country in Europe is 25 million. 2.5 करोड़, 3 करोड़, 25 करोड़ अधिक से अधिक है कहीं पर. Right? So then economists, social science people started analyzing, my social science friends, that GDP, GNP does not give the real picture of growth of a society. तो क्या ले आए? कोई है sociology का ना? Sociology, economics, we have people. Somebody said that I am from social sciences. Who is from social science? Who is from social science? Is it Bhaskar? No, not Bhaskar. Shashikant? कई लोग लगता है थक गए सुनते सुनते, सो गए. कोई बात नहीं, जो सुन रहे हैं वो लोग सुनिए आराम से.
Sir, as I am not the social science student.
Okay.
Government generally take population count. So status of the people actually.
Human
Right,
happiness
right.
index.
Human Development Index. Very good.
Human development index.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you, Shachi.
HDI.
Yes.
Yes. Sir.
So, Human Development Index came. What it talks about, as rightly the Partha also told, that what is the status of schooling of children, status of women. Consider these things also. Then GDP, GNP was replaced by Human Development Index. Then also problems were found. There are many countries where Human Development Index is good, but even then you find terrorists. Somebody got very good education in some university and became a terrorist, or became a hooligan, or became somebody who starts killing other people. So now, अभी भूटान में आया happiness index कहते हैं उसको. So those who are from social science, they can try for something known as emotional well-being index. Whether people are emotionally well or not. So now you are going for quantification, you are creating science, and you can discover laws of social sciences, and you can engineer a society that is emotionally well, that is emotionally balanced, where people help each other, and everybody keeps trying to make everybody else happy. When does the society becomes happy? So मेरी माँ ने बचपन में एक बहुत बढ़िया कहानी सुनाई थी कि कब लोग सुखी होते हैं एक साथ रह करके. That is very interesting. It can be obtained in looked at in social sciences also. A person who worshipped a lot, the God appeared before that person and said, you can ask for some boon from me and I will provide you because you have worshipped a lot. So the devotee said that I want to see the hell and the स्वर्ग और नरक दोनों एक साथ देखना चाहता हूँ with this body itself, right? So God said, well, okay, no problem. But the devotee said, I want to see with this my own body, so that I don't need to die to be able to see paradise and hell. So God first took him to hell. What was there in the hell? People, those who were in the hell, they were very lean and thin. They did not have a strong body. When they were walking, they were falling down. But the place of hell was very good. It was very beautiful, with nice trees, flowers, lanes, roads, everything. Whatever facility and whatever material, goods and fruits and everything, that everything was available there on the streets. Then the God showed the devotee the dining hall. Before people were entering into the dining hall, one hand was being tied on the back and the right hand was being tied with a spoon. And the baton of the spoon was very big, and the part of the spoon with which you eat was very small. So in the hand it was tied, the other hand was tied on the back. So whenever people tried to eat, everything went up. They could not feed themselves because their hand was not reaching the mouth, because the bigger stick of the spoon was tied with the hand. That is why people were unfed and they were falling, although everything was available, but nobody was able to feed himself. Then God took them to the paradise. There the similar types of trees, fruits, facilities, and everything of the same type were available, as good as it was in hell. But people there in the paradise, they were walking happily, they were dancing, chanting, they had good, this thing also, strong body, physical appearance, and their faces were blooming with happiness, etc. Then God took the devotee to the dining hall. When people were entering into the dining hall, surprisingly, their hands were also tied in the same way as it was in the hell. But the difference was, rather than trying to eat on their own, they were trying to feed each other. You see, you can feed the other person if you have hand like this. You cannot eat yourself, but you can give it to the other person, to their mouth. Right? That is why they all were healthy and they all were happy. So any society where every section worries more about the other person. In a family, if you have a family, if everybody is worrying about each other, then you create a paradise in your family. But if you are interested only in satisfying your needs and greeds, then everybody becomes weak and it becomes hell. Same is the case with the department or college institute also. If you are helping each other, then you make a great institution. Right? The same is true with the country also. So just having material well-being does not ensure emotional well-being. The proper psyche needs to be nurtured. That is why I say social sciences are as important as physical, material. Normally people understand that scientists and engineers are great people because they constitute all the comfort. But bigger difficult questions and concerns are there in social sciences, humanities and arts. Because factually all the concerns that scientists, engineers, technologists have to address, they emanate from the social order, social behavior, interaction of people. If you do not consider that, then you will have to go for re-engineering. I can give you an example. When the railway reservation system was made first, some of my students were also there in the railway reservation system creation, as I understand. They only thought that it is a very simple solution. You have got berths in the train, you have got people who are to be accommodated, so simply you have to map in the order that the requests have arrived, give birth to people. Give birth to people. But later, after so many years, only a little more time back, people have realized that there are other concerns also of the society, like somebody who is of 70 years age. So now it has been modified. The program got modified now. That is known as maintenance. That is understanding and changing the software to accommodate that those who are having more than age more than 60, those who are having certain disability, they should be given lower berth. Women should be given lower berth. Right? You see, modifying a software to accommodate newer societal concerns, you have to do a lot of work, understand the older software and modify it. And many times in modifying an older software, you introduce too many bugs, too many faults in the program. and it may not become maintainable. After so many years, now only people have realized that if you are traveling in a train, suppose some team is going, you are going with team of students on a tour. You may have booked for 50 people, but at the end, names of those 50 people, some 5 people may be different who are coming. Or some 5 people have to be dropped, they cannot travel. Or in a marriage party, barat ja rahi hai, so names should change. Because some relative of yours said कि भाई हम चलना चाहते थे लेकिन कोई काम आ गया, and some other people are to be added. So only recently, a few years back, railway reservation system accommodated this new societal concern. That was a concern then also, but they did not do analysis of issues, challenges, and problems nicely, because of which this thing was not considered then. So when you are providing a solution, if you do not do thorough study of issues, challenges, and problems, you may end up providing solutions to problems without addressing completely the concerns and issues. Janardhan ji, kuch keh rahe hain? You are not audible, Janardhan. Very sorry. Otherwise, I would have responded to your question. So wait for your turn again. I will be giving you time for questions and answer also very shortly. So you see, that is why I have tried to accommodate these issues, challenges, problems, and everything. Now, railway reservation system has gone for it. Janardhan, maybe it is unknowingly your speaker is on. Your speaker is on. Kindly mute yourself, Janardhan Yadav, because too much of sound is coming. Hello. Hello. Janardhan Yadav, kindly mute Janardhan Yadav. Somebody is speaking at his place continuously, so it may disturb. It is unknowingly. Janardhan Yadav. Okay, so that is why I say that whenever you are taking some research-oriented study, concentrate on the concern that is being addressed and try to look at the concern and pinpointly identify the various attributes of the concern nicely. If you will do that, then look at the challenges, constraints and difficulties that are forming the challenges in addressing whether it is an issue or not. That is the first question. If it is no issue, nobody is interested in this concern, then there is no either or there is no challenge in terms of constraints and difficulties associated with it, then drop it. If there are interesting constraints and difficulties, then solve the problem associated under this context of this issue and challenge, the simplified problem, with only one difficulty being considered at a time. Once you have got the solution to the simplified problem, keep adding more and more constraints and difficulties and solve the complex problem, the difficult problem that you have. Okay? So with this, okay, you have raised a hand, yes. So now I'm going to open questions. With this, I wish you all the best in doing research at your own place where you are. The objective was to initiate you for research. You don't need to be a very great research center to be able to do research on your own. If you keep identifying issues, challenges, and problems by reading from journals, magazines, by looking at the newspapers, talking to people in conferences, etc. When you go to a conference, try to identify the concerns, issues, associated challenges and problems, and start giving simplified solutions to problems. And then start complicating the problem and providing solution by adding more and more constraints and difficulties or challenges to it. You will thrive as a researcher. That is my objective. If in some fashion it is going to be useful to you, I am very happy. Otherwise, you will find from the organizers of the conference my email address. You can visit. You are most welcome to visit whenever you come to Varanasi. You can come and visit me, and I will help you in devising research questions in your area, if I will be able to help you in understanding the area that you are working in. If something I can do it for you. From my side, it's over. Now I am open for questions. So you can ask questions one by one.
Good evening, sir.
Give comments as you wish. Yes.
Sir, how to aesthetically measure innovative ideas and technological progress of Indian context?
How to?
Aesthetically measure innovative ideas and technological progress.
Okay, technological progress. Okay, very nice. You see, there are a few techniques that are being used, like when people identify problems and provide solutions, they go for startups. And when they go for a startup, now people say that out of 10, only 1 or 2 startups that really become successful and become companies. Some of them become very small, in small scale successful. Some become very successful. They are known as unicorns. Unicorns, where you have more than 1 billion turnover, million turnover companies are there. They are known as unicorn, right? So by counting the number of companies, one can find out whether you are making technological progress as a society or not. When you are a country, then all the types of concerns that the country has identified in terms of newer material development, newer facilities development, if you want, अगर आप चांद पे जाना चाहते हैं, सूरज को नापना चाहते हैं, the types of problems you have identified and you are solving per overhead. There is a term known as efficiency, if you know or not. Something being efficient. What we say, suppose I want to have high speed train. So what we have to do? We have to increase the speed of train, ensuring safety and security of the passenger. So whenever you are going to increase the speed of the train, then you have to worry that the money required, the material to be used, the cost is to be minimized. So factually, efficiency is any increase in the characteristic of goodness per unit resource consumption. So if you are finding very small increase, let us say speed in the train, लेकिन पैसा बहुत ज़्यादा लगा दे रहे हैं, तो efficiency is not very good. But if you find very great speed change in the speed with very low cost, then you say you are very efficient. Like Chandrayaan, other countries made Chandrayaan with great deal of resources. बहुत पैसा लगा, हमारे यहाँ कम लगा. So we can be said that our engineering and technology solutions are more efficient. So another way of looking at the technological development, that you can look at efficiency. I mean, finding some characteristic of goodness per unit resource consumption, the cost, overhead. अगर बहुत खर्चा पड़ रहा है, थोड़ा सा फायदा पाने में, तो less efficient. Okay? Is it okay?
Sir, as a nation, sir, how can measure it?
No, that is how I am saying. You count it. You have to plot a graph, a curve by the progress made per unit resource consumption, and you can find. That is how developmental economics works. That is how country, like if the Sensex is moving, then financial well-being is good. When the number of people who have to be provided free food, if it is reducing, then you are economically developing. So anywhere efficiency, when less resources are to be used for achieving well-being of people, you are financially doing well. If solutions to the problems are being found with lesser consumption of resources, you are technologically doing well. So you can plot curves, etc. That is what developmental economics people do. And they provide indications of society, how fast they are moving. That is what I understand. If you have something else, you can tell us. Any other question? I find 2 persons with the same name, Shachi Mishra. Are there 2 Shachi Mishras, or it is only 1 person with 2 accounts? Huh?
No, sir, there are 2 Shachis.
Ah, very nice. One is from chemistry. You are from chemistry, it seems.
Yes, sir, I am from chemistry.
And the other one? Sachi, the other Sachi? So any question, Sachi, do you have from chemistry? Any comment that you would like to make?
Sir, exactly, I don't have a question, but like you mentioned that research is looking at same questions from different perspectives. And
maybe perspective is also same, but you are considering some another parameter. Like some research was conducted considering 3-4 parameters, right? Okay. So what normally you do in research? You do dy by dx. You know dy by dx, na?
Yeah, yes.
Deba y by dx. So if you have deba y by dx, delta y by dx, then what you do, you consider the rate of change of in y with respect to only one variable, x1, let us say, xi.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So that way you can find out which one is the most significant parameter, right? Or less significant parameter. So suppose somebody has arrived at y equal to fx, the next research could be to find out which one is the most significant parameter that contributes to the characteristic of y. It is adding more knowledge to the body of knowledge regarding the characteristic y in terms of contributory parameters xi's or xj's. Okay. The other thing could be those who are least significant in xi or xj, you remove them. Don't consider them and try to say whether much of change in y is occurring or not. If it is not that, then you can do the same study or understanding with the lesser number of parameters. So computational cost, the analytical cost or experimental cost would come down.
Yes,
You
yes,
get the
sir.
point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In different reviews, also the same strategy is means applied.
Right, different
Yes.
techniques, different ways of solving the problem. Sometimes if there is a problem for which the solution is very complex, normally you try to solve a problem with fewer constraints and maybe the characteristic of the solution is acceptable.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right?
Thank you so much,
So
sir.
that
Yes.
is also research.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Sir, in economics, we use econometrics and in econometric models, we usually take one variable which we called as the error term, which catches all those parameters which are not very much relevant
Yes,
to
yes,
the
yes.
model.
Error analysis. Error analysis and significance analysis are very much autocorrelation. Somebody is answering those good questions. Correlation is already there. When you plot a curve, then you find out what is the relation. That is, there is something known as a correlation coefficient. You can find a standard deviation. You can outliers can be removed, etc. So there are these are the techniques that are the numerical analysis techniques. Maybe there the error analysis techniques are there to identify the differences that you have. So economics is very interesting. You see, economics is an area that is thriving these days. Everybody is understanding more and more economic well-being of people. But you see, you can bring in Indian wisdom also in study of economics. Economics को क्या कहते हैं? अर्थशास्त्र हिंदी में.
Yes, sir.
अर्थ का मतलब क्या होता है? मतलब कहने का है when you are looking at the flow of monetary things and processes that generate resources and generate things of well-being for people, if they are going towards enriching the nature, enriching the relationships in the society, all the economic activities and processes, if they are going towards enriching the nature, enriching the social relations, enriching the social well-being, तब तो अर्थशास्त्र है. लेकिन अगर वो प्रकृति को बर्बाद कर रहा है, सामाजिक संबंधों को बर्बाद कर रहा है, तो अनर्थशास्त्र है. तो इकोनॉमिक्स की स्टडी सही नहीं है until unless you bring in, as I said, well-being of people. वो जो स्वर्ग नरक वाली कहानी सुना है, अगर वो नहीं हो रहा है आपके इकोनॉमिक प्रोसेस से, तो अनर्थशास्त्र है. So when you bring in Indian wisdom to include the concerns of society in terms of worrying about nature, social order, social relationships, then you are doing Arthashastra. And if you are not doing that, then you are doing Anarthashastra. Does it seem interesting to you? Somebody who was talking about economics, social science?
Yes, sir. So that's right, sir.
हाँ, तो ऐसा रिसर्च करिए, मजा आएगा आपको. अर्थशास्त्र, जब आप इकोनॉमिक्स का कोई पढ़िए बाहर का, तो कहिए कि हम इसमें इंडियन विजडम, इंडियन करेक्टरिस्टिक्स, नॉलेज सिस्टम से मिला के कुछ ला रहे हैं और हम अर्थशास्त्र बना रहे हैं. इसको अभी तक अनर्थशास्त्र. तो आजकल की जो गवर्नमेंट और पैसा भी देने को तैयार हो जाएगी. आजकल है ना, इफ यू इंटीग्रेट इंडियन विजडम, इफ यू इंटीग्रेट, इनकलकेट आवर वैल्यूज, then easily you can get a research project also. You can submit to different ministries. So you can submit to Ministry of Culture also a project that will do that. Any other question?
Sir,
Yes, please. Lalit.
How can use the correct research topic for a particular area.
That is the way. As I said, you look at concerns of society, look at concerns of scientists, social scientists, professionals, industry people, families, individuals. If there are constraints and difficulties in working out consideration to that concern, then it becomes an issue. So find out research issue associated with it, define the constraints and difficulties that make the challenges, find a small or big problem there and provide solutions to them. You are finding research questions. That is the way that I explain. That is what I have tried to bring home the point since beginning of my lecture. I try to do controlled release of information so that I don't burden you with heavy, difficult understandings of sciences and engineering, so as to be able to invoke questions, because you see, social science questions or humanities questions are interesting to everybody. After all, we all are humans and society people. But the research methodology is same, whether it is sciences, engineering, technology, or domain of humanities or social sciences. The method is same of identifying. If you want to know more, we can interact later also. Very question was good. Any other question? You can give any understanding of yours that can help me enriching my understanding. If you want to give your understanding, any comment that you want to make. Thank you, Sachi Mishra says. Thank you, friends. It was wonderful to interact with you. Obviously, it could have been much more interesting to meet you in a hall where we all are sitting. Always communication is much more effective when you look at the faces of the audience also. But anyway, I have tried to make it interested as much. Thank you, Jignesh ji, Daya Shankar, Ian Singh. I'm really overwhelmed to see that you all liked it. Being an interesting session. I'm so very happy. Manju, Sneha, Sheesh, Mondal, all of you, I'm thankful to you, everybody, each one of you. Piyush, Verma, and other people also. Ambuj, Bhaskar ji. And I hope you are all from very many different places that you come from. Ranjita, BNM, Beria, and Sachi Mishra again, and Archana. I think both the Sachi Mishras have appeared.
Yes, sir. It was a wonderful session.
Ruma. Ruma, any question?
No, it was a wonderful session.
Thank you very much. I am so very happy to note it. Although it was for 3 hours, so I have taken too much of time to talk to you. Thank you, Mitali, Anamika, Partha, all that Mitali, everybody. Thank you very much. If you permit me, yes, Amit Das, Professor Manoshi Roy. So I think people are there from all over the country, from Bengal also, I think, although you can find a Bengali professor in Banaras also. So it doesn't mean to say that all the Bengalis would be only from Bengal. So anybody can, these days, India is very nicely integrated that way. We find people of all walks of life and all cultures everywhere. Sanjay Paul, many thanks. Thank you very much. So if you permit, I will sign off now. A minute and a half is there. I wish you all the very best for your later interaction.
Thank you, sir.
And do make it a point to come to Banaras. Is a great place. Hanuman Gupta ji. So do come to Varanasi, and if find time, meet me. I'll be happy to interact and help you in any respect that it be possible. Shashikant ji.
Sure, sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I think you can allow me to sign off. Thank you all very much. Signing off.